Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted the most had been living a double life? That's exactly what happened to me. 15 years of marriage, building a family, and working tirelessly to provide a stable life. Yet, my wife had been cheating with my best friend for years. I had no idea until one shocking discovery revealed the depth of betrayal. The pain of realizing that the people I loved and trusted were deceiving me cut deeper than anything I could have imagined. But this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about reclaiming control and turning the situation into a form of justice. I had to act carefully, strategically, and with patience. Every decision I made from that moment on was calculated to protect my family, my assets, and myself. Stick around, because what I did next completely changed the game. You'll see how observation, cunning strategy, and unwavering resolve can turn betrayal into a story of shocking payback. My name is Ethan Clark, I'm 36, and I live in Texas, USA. I thought I had a perfect family. I worked hard every day to provide, protect, and love the people who mattered most to me. I took pride in our life, the home we shared, the children I raised, the stability I worked to ensure. I never imagined betrayal could come from the two people I trusted the most, my wife and my best friend. But I wasn't about to let them take everything from me. I had to find the truth, uncover the lies, and make sure justice was served, even if it meant turning my pain into a carefully planned strategy for revenge. I thought life couldn't get any better. Every morning, I'd watch Julia and the kids bustling around the kitchen while I made breakfast. Weekend barbecues in the backyard were filled with laughter, neighbors stopping by to chat, and the little joys that make a home feel alive. I was proud, not just of the house I had built, but of the family we were, or so I thought. The children's laughter echoed through the neighborhood, and I felt a sense of contentment. Julia and I shared smiles, small gestures, and quiet moments that I believed reflected trust and love. Everyone around us saw a perfect marriage. I often caught neighbors glancing, saying we were the couple everyone admired. I soaked in the approval, feeling I was doing everything right as a father, husband, and provider. But subtle things started to shift. Julia would take her phone into other rooms, whisper quietly, or step outside to make calls I wasn't meant to hear. Odd little behaviors, hidden messages on her tablet, quick exits from social events seemed insignificant at the time. I chalked it up to privacy or stress at work. I had no reason to doubt her. Yet, there was a tension in the air I couldn't name. I felt it in the way she hesitated when I asked about simple things, or the quick flickers of worry in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't realize these small moments were foreshadowing a betrayal I would soon uncover, a betrayal that would shatter the life I had worked so hard to protect. I loved my family, and I trusted Julia completely. I had no idea that the foundations I thought were solid were quietly being undermined, and that the perfect life everyone saw was only a facade. I started noticing little things at first, strange texts that would vanish too quickly for me to see, small withdrawals in our accounts that didn't make sense, and subtle hints from friends who seemed uncomfortable around Julia. My stomach dropped the first time I realized the pattern. Something was off. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a misunderstanding or a mistake with the bank. But the more I paid attention, the clearer it became. Julia's behavior was deliberate. She was hiding something. My disbelief turned to shock, and shock quickly turned to anger. How could they do this right under my nose? And with my best friend of all people, the thought made my chest tighten, my mind spinning with questions I didn't know how to answer. I couldn't confront her blindly. I needed proof. I couldn't risk the truth disappearing like the messages I barely caught. I decided to hire a private investigator to discreetly follow her activities, trace financial transactions, and gather evidence. The tension was unbearable. Each day brought a mix of dread and resolve. I knew that uncovering her secrets would hurt, but I also knew I couldn't let deception destroy everything I had built. The feeling of betrayal was suffocating, yet a small spark of determination ignited inside me. I would find the truth. I would gather proof. And when I did, I would have the power to reclaim my life, my family, and the justice that had been denied to me. The investigation was crushing me piece by piece. I discovered Julia's secret. She had been seeing my best friend behind my back. The realization felt like a physical blow. Every conversation, every laugh, every shared moment I had thought was genuine now seemed tainted with deceit. I couldn't believe how deep the betrayal ran, but I needed absolute certainty. I had to know the truth about the children. Quietly, I arranged for DNA tests on both of them, careful to do it without raising suspicion. Each day, waiting for the results was a torture of anxious anticipation. I replayed everything I thought I knew about my family, trying to prepare myself for what I might find. When the results came back, my heart stopped. I stared at the report in disbelief. The truth was undeniable. I was not the biological father. My mind spun. Everything I thought was mine, my family, my children, my life, was a lie. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. I felt a mix of anger, grief, and shock like nothing before. Yet, amid the devastation, a small clarity began to form. I realized that knowing the truth gave me power. It gave me the chance to act, to reclaim what was rightfully mine, and to make sure the deception couldn't continue. I couldn't undo the past, but I could take control of the future. My focus sharpened, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of purpose. This betrayal would not define me. I realized that patience and precision were my only allies now. I couldn't confront Julia blindly. I needed strategy, legal support, and airtight documentation. I met with my lawyer, laying out every detail. The hidden bank accounts, deleted emails, and the undeniable evidence of her affair with my best friend. Together, we crafted a plan. Divorce papers were filed, and I made sure every asset, our home, our investments, and financial accounts, was legally secured in my name. I reviewed past contracts and agreements, and to my relief, there were hidden clauses I hadn't noticed before. They gave me the authority to act decisively, blocking Julia from accessing any of the funds or selling property without my consent. The tension was almost palpable. Julia and my former best friend thought they still had the upper hand, confident that my absence offshore had given them leverage. Little did they know that every step I took had been deliberate, calculated, and protected by law. I could feel the satisfaction building as I implemented the measures. Every account frozen, every transfer monitored, every legal clause enforced brought me closer to reclaiming what was rightfully mine. The suspense was intense, knowing that any wrong move from her side would only strengthen my case. By the end of the day, I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. Julia thought she could outsmart me, but with careful planning, patience, and legal strategy, I had turned the tables. The betrayal had cost her everything she had taken for granted, and the next steps would ensure justice was served completely. The courtroom felt colder than I expected, the tension heavy in the air. I stepped forward, holding the evidence that had taken weeks to collect. DNA test results, documentation of Julia's affair with my former best friend, and the meticulously tracked financial proof, all laid out on the table before the judge. I watched Julia's face as I presented each piece of evidence. At first, she maintained her composure, but slowly, panic crept in. Her eyes widened, her hands fidgeted, and the confident mask she had worn for so long began to crack. I could almost see her guilt written across her features, the realization that her deception had been fully exposed. Inside my head, I kept a steady mantra. I never wanted revenge to be personal humiliation, but I couldn't let betrayal destroy my life. I had to protect what was mine. Every detail mattered: the timing, the presentation, the facts. The judge read through the evidence carefully, occasionally glancing at Julia, then back at me. When the ruling finally came, it was decisive. Divorce confirmed, custody secured, and all shared property legally placed in my name. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming. But more than relief, there was a sense of justice restored. For years, I had trusted, loved, and believed. That trust had been shattered, but patience, strategy, and the law had turned the tables. Julia's betrayal ended where it should have, from exposure and accountability. I finally returned home, the quiet of the house contrasting sharply with the chaos of the past weeks. Sitting with a cup of coffee in hand, I watched the children play, laughter filling the room, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace. Relief washed over me, but it was mixed with the weight of everything I had uncovered. The betrayal had been deep, calculated, and devastating, yet I had acted with patience, strategy, and resolve. I felt pride, not in the act of revenge itself, but in protecting what was mine and ensuring that justice was served. I reflected on how quickly trust can be shattered, and yet how important it is to remain composed, observant, and thoughtful in moments of crisis. To those watching, I want to ask, have you ever faced betrayal in a marriage? How would you respond if the truth was this shocking? Could you remain calm long enough to act strategically, or would emotions take over? This story is just one example where betrayal met careful planning, and the consequences were life-changing. There are more stories to come, each with shocking twists, clever strategies, and lessons that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Make sure you stay tuned. You won't want to miss what happens next.